The content of the Tandem Radio program and website is intended for general information purposes only. It's not designed to provide listeners with specific and personal financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or other advice. The views expressed by show hosts, their guests, and callers are their own and should not be construed in any way as opinions of Tandem Radio or the Bridge FM network.
Here we go!
You will eat the fruit of your labor. Blessings and prosperity will be yours, says the Lord in Psalms 128:2. Good morning and welcome to Tandem Radio. This is your host, Glen here every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Just excited to be here once again, and this time not only with a great business guest, but a great friend and prayer warrior, my good buddy Greg Webb, who we're going to talk to in a minute. Greg is a top performer at Ray Catena Lexus here in New Jersey, and we're going to be talking about a unique topic called industry stereotypes. And Greg is in the automotive industry, so we all know of stereotypes in that industry, and Greg is the exception to the rule in my opinion, so we're going to be talking about that. For those of you who are listening for the first time, Tandem Radio is the good news on business. That's what we're all about, and our goal of this show is to point you in God's direction relative to your business. Our Bibles are filled with scripture that will benefit you in business and give you wisdom in every aspect of your life, not just on church on Sundays, but in everything that you do. And we hope that you would go to God and seek Him for your business, and we hope that we can point you in that direction, which is our primary goal of the show. Secondarily, what we like to do is bring in guests from different industries and help you to hear what they do and how they do it, and hopefully glean some nuggets, as I call it, that can help you in your business or your business dealings in general. And today we have a special guest in, and the theme for the show, as I mentioned today, is industry stereotypes, which we all know of different industries that have some weird stereotypes, and we're going to talk about some of those today, and how to find the exceptions in those stereotypes that can benefit you. So before we go there, though, as I mentioned, our goal is to point you to God's Word, and every week God puts some scriptures on my heart, and usually those scriptures jump right out at me and say, boy, those tie right into what we're doing. But sometimes I read those scriptures and I say, God, what are you trying to tell me here? But you know what? It's a Holy Spirit-led show. It all ties together, and God makes it all work at the end, and that's what I'm excited about. And I pray that that's what we can do, is glorify Him in all that we do today. So welcome again to Tandem Radio, which we're here every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for not only our regional audience, but our national and international audience as well. So it's great to have you listening in. Let's go right to our scriptures today. 1 Chronicles 29:17 is the first one. 1 Chronicles, and it's 29:17. I know, my God, that you test the heart and are pleased with integrity. All these things I have given willingly and with honest intent. And now I have seen with joy how willingly your people who are here have given to you. Psalm 25:21. May integrity and uprightness protect me, because my hope, Lord, is in you. And Galatians 6:7. Do not be deceived. God cannot be mocked. A man reaps what he sows. So again, we're here today with the topic of industry stereotypes, and my good friend and brother in the Lord, Greg Webb, is with us this morning. Greg, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Glenn. Thanks for having me on.
No problem. I know you've been an avid listener, whether it's by my arm twisting or you remembered yourself, but I've always appreciated your insights and input on the show, and I'm so glad that you were able to finally get in the studio, because I know we both have crazy schedules. So, Greg, tell us a little bit about your background. Introduce yourself to our audience.
Well, my name is Greg Webb. I reside in Monmouth County in Wall Township. My wife, Judy, and my two daughters, Summer and Brielle. And I've been in the automotive industry about 25 years. I've been in the retail industry since shortly after college, but we don't have to go back that far. The passion in my life is for cars and people and satisfying customers.
Now, again, I know my experience with you has been very unique in the car industry. I'm even at a point where I can just say, hey, Greg, just find me something. And it makes my life a lot easier, and I know that I'm in trusted hands, and I know you look out for me as if it was your own car. So I appreciate that. So I kind of have a unique background in this area nowadays because of our relationship. But I remember the days before I knew you about how I used to have to haggle for cars. And at one time we had one company that was 50 or 60 employees, had 18 trucks on the road. We were buying vehicles like crazy, and always something. Not to mention the cars we had in the company and in the family. So it seemed like I was in a car dealership every month back then. It was amazing some of the crazy things I had to do to get a good deal on a car. I remember the days one time, I'll tell some of those funny stories later, and I'm sure you'll have some funny stories to share with us, but we all know, our listeners all know of experience of the common joke about, he was like a used car salesperson right away. That is equate to a stereotype of negativity, somebody who's pushy, somebody who's difficult. But I know you've stepped out of those bounds, Greg, primarily because you know Christ, and that because Christ is in your heart, you know that you need to be more than that. You answer to a higher authority, for lack of a better term. And I know that's important and makes a difference. But let's talk about the car industry in general. First off, let's start with you and your background. Why automotive? Why did you get into the automotive industry?
Well, I always had a passion for cars, and I worked in the retail clothing industry, and we had a policy where you couldn't give cash back. You had a gift certificate or store credit. So someone would come in, buy a coat or fur for his wife and bring it home to her, and she hated it, and she came back and she couldn't find it she liked. Well, you had a $5,000 store credit, didn't go over too well, so you had to do something to satisfy this client.
Right.
So after searching for a new industry to get into, my wife said, well, you always talk about your first experience in buying a brand new car. I always had used cars all my life, and when I went around shopping, there's three cars that were on my target. One was a Honda, that was my reach car. The next was a Hyundai, and before that was that little Czechoslovakian car, the
Yugo.
The Yugo.
Oh, wow.
So my first...
now you're dating yourself.
Yeah, now I'm dating myself. You don't know a Yugo, Google it and you'll see what it is.
Right.
So I go into a Yugo dealership and I opened the door. It was about paper thin. I closed it, and the whole headliner fell down around myself. So, I mean, it was... the salesman just kind of walked away, and he knew he didn't even have a chance. Next dealership I went into was a Honda dealership, and right away they were asking me for my social security, my birthday. They wanted to run my credit, and every dealer that had a car on the lot back then had additional dealer markup on the car. So if the car was a $6,000 car, it had about $2,000 of door edge guards, painted pinstripes, and mud flaps on the car. So we walked out of there. So settled at a Hyundai, which was brand new at the time back in the 80s, and had a bad experience. Had an experience where at delivery in August, they told me there was no air conditioning in the car because they ran out of them. So anyway, for 3 months I complained about the car and the experience I had. So long and short of it, when it came time to get into the business, I kept on telling my wife it's time to make a change, and I said I can do this better, I can do it honestly, and I think I can make a living at it. So that was 24 some years ago.
And did you start right for Lexus at that time?
No, I started selling Buicks, and actually also in Jeeps, and it was pretty interesting because the Buicks you were dealing with, sometimes they called them the last-time buyers. It was a much older crowd. And the Jeeps, you were dealing with the yuppies, who everyone wanted a Jeep Grand Cherokee with this first sport utility luxury cars. So I learned a lot from both the seniors and from the up-and-coming, but moved on there to the Honda line, and then to the Acura, which was the near luxury line, and then landed a job at the Lexus, Ray Catena Lexus dealership.
And I know you've had a very unique experience there as well. Let's talk from a business perspective now. Obviously, the automotive industry excited you. You went through a couple of different places, and now you've landed at Lexus. Lexus, and we're not trying to make this an infomercial for them, but they have a very unique style and flair. I mean, I'm sold on it. I mean, I wouldn't go elsewhere. But you also are involved in a company, Ray Catena Lexus, which has a unique brand to itself. I mean, not just what the national recognition is of Lexus, but also what they've done regionally, and it's pretty impressive. So what sets your dealership apart? Let's start there first before we go to the car manufacturer. What sets your dealership apart from other places?
Well, it starts with Ray Catena himself. He has a saying, you take care of your family, take care of yourself, and we'll take care of your car. And from start to finish, and for 35 some odd years, or even longer probably, Ray has had a policy to deal with just one salesperson and one manager. So you're not being bumped around from place to place. So when you enter the dealership, you're greeted by a receptionist, and then you're introduced to a salesperson. And then from then, you don't get bounced around from department to department. You stick with that salesperson from start to finish, and the salesperson deals with one manager who's going to help with the pricing of the car and the appraisal of the used cars. There's no finance department. You start with the salesperson, you end with the salesperson, and we also have delivery coordinators. So when you come pick up your car, we have technology guys who, now these cars are small computers that will go over your car as well.
Right. So that single-minded experience where you're dealing with one individual that you believe in from the beginning and you're not getting thrown all over the place, that's a big distinction for people.
Right. It kind of, breaks down that stereotypical, like, oh, you have to go talk to the manager and this manager and this manager and this manager. So, again, breaking down the stereotypes is, again, the relationship you're going to have with a one-on-one. Right. The relationship you're going to have with that one person from start to finish.
It's funny you mentioned about it started with Ray Catena himself, and it always reminds me of a story that when I was had a company up north and we had about 50 employees or so. I'll never forget, we had a long-time customer who was a chain customer, and everything was really always good with them. And I sent a tech out to do a job, and the tech did not do a good job. And the guy called me to tell me, Glenn, I just want to let you know, I've known you for a long time, and we've done a lot of work together, but I won't be using you anymore. And I was really upset. And I said, look, this is a brand new tech. I'm sorry. He came out there. It's the first time we ever disappointed, blah, blah, blah. And he said something to me that still sticks with me today. He said, the fish stinks from the tail up. And I'll never forget that. Needless to say, he was one of those Italian guys, he said with Italian accent. He says, but the fish stinks from the tail up. And I think about that. The first time I ever met Ray Catena, he was more concerned about if I was a happy customer than anything else I had to say or anything that he said about himself. So that's impressive. Greg, I want to thank you for coming in today because I know Saturdays are tough. So we're going to come back right after the break with more with Greg Webb, who's a top performer at Ray Catena Lexus and just knows an intimate amount about the industry. And we're talking about industry stereotypes. We'll go beyond automotive, but Greg's here with some of that expertise as well. So you're listening to Tandem Radio at tandemradio.com or at the Bridge FM radio stations, whichever you prefer. We cover it all, not only regionally but nationally. We love hearing from you too at Facebook. So Tandem Radio on Facebook is a great way to communicate with us also. And feel free to get on Facebook, send us a message. We'd love to hear from you. And better than that, we'll get back to you. And we'll do our best to help you with your business questions or anything you need, as well as pray for your business. So stay tuned. We got a lot more to talk about on industry stereotypes on the Good News on Business.
2, 1, cut. Hi, my name is Cooper Ford from Tandem Radio, the Good News on Business. I want to thank you for joining us for this episode. Hopefully you've been getting some fantastic insights from Glen and our featured guest. While we're taking this break, I want to introduce you to our website at tandemradio.com, where there's a wealth of information focusing on bringing Christian principles into the business world. First of all, we have some of our other archive shows that are on there where you can see some of our past guests and listen to their shows. Second, we also have Ask Tandem, which is our shorter video segments focusing on specific questions related to faith and the workplace. And finally, we have our sponsors, like-minded businesses and professionals who not only share our mission, but also who want to serve you. So check it all out at tandemradio.com. If you want to get in touch with us, you can also email us at info@tandemradio.com. That's info@tandemradio.com. And we look forward to hearing from you. So thanks again for joining us, and let's get back to Glenn and the show. God bless.
Welcome back to Tandem Radio. We're here with the Good News on Business, and our topic today is industry stereotypes. And with us is a good friend and brother in the Lord, Greg Webb, who's a top performer at Ray Catena Lexus. And he's done extraordinary things with that company, and I know he's got a lot of accolades. But we're going to stay focused on the topic for today. And let's start with our scriptures again. As we do each week, we have 3 scriptures that God has brought into my heart. The first one is 1 Chronicles 29:17, I know, my God, that you test the heart and are pleased with integrity. All these things I have given willingly. and with honest intent. Psalm 25:21, my integrity and uprightness protect me because my hope, Lord, is in you. And then Galatians 6:7, do not be deceived. God cannot be mocked. A man reaps what he sows. Of course, with stereotyping, we often think of negative things on stereotyping. Sometimes there's positive things to that, but today we're more focused on an industry that's not always known for its integrity, but yet we're sitting with a man of integrity here who works within that industry, and that's why I wanted Greg to come in today and share with us. And Greg, thanks for coming in this morning.
You're welcome, Glenn.
Greg, let's dig right into some of the issues in the industry. Why did the industry get this moniker? Why do they, why do so many people joke about the used car salesperson? It must have come from somewhere.
Well, I mean, it goes back to horse trading first off, but then when automobiles came out, there was no set pricing that was on the window of the car, no window sticker. So basically, you would walk into a used car lot, and each used car dealer or new car dealer or used car dealer are particular franchises. So a Ford, when you walk into a Ford lot, you're not walking into Henry Ford's store.
Right.
You're walking into someone who has paid millions of dollars for this franchise and is their independent store. They buy the vehicle from the manufacturer and they would decide what the price they would sell it for. So probably, I don't know the exact timing, but maybe in the 40s or 50s, I'm not quite sure when it was, but legislator Mr. Monroney, he came up with the idea that you have to have a mandated price on the car, on the window sticker, so that's what they call it, the Monroney label. So that kind of set the standard in the industry where all dealerships had cars with the prices on the window sticker. So again, the idea of a used car salesman, is the guy who's going to come out and just shoot any number off, and you go walk across the street, and this same car could be a different number.
I get it.
So it's that kind of not knowing what the price of the car kind of I think really set it off.
Okay. So that was in the early days of the industry. So obviously a lot of that's changed, but the moniker is hung in there. And again, that's what you have to be careful of with these, and with any industry, that the industry gets stereotyped. Now, what about expectations of people? So they have this concern in the back of their head. Sometimes people see buying a car as very stressful, and a lot of times it can be. Thank God in my experience with you is not that way, but it can be for a lot of people. What type of expectations should people have when they walk into a dealership? Should they have their guard up? Should they be concerned? I mean, what should they really expect when they walk into the average dealership today?
Well, any good consumer usually does the research, and if the dealership has, some bad ratings or bad blogs or some information, there's a reason why. People don't put bad things on the internet, generally, if they had good experiences. So the customer who comes onto the lot should really just be aware of their surroundings. Be aware when they pulled in, did they have parking? So right away, if they have all their used cars lined up and no parking for customers, what is that saying? They don't really care about the customer. So from then, were they greeted properly when they walked in? If you walk into a dealership and you get attacked by 5 or 6 salesmen, that's what most people are expecting.
Right.
Lexus' philosophy is to treat every guest as a guest in their home, every client as a guest in your home. So we have a greeting system that comes in, and then they introduce you to a salesperson. So the person who's going out and looking for a vehicle should look at these things. Where are they going to have that kind of experience? Look at the dealership. How does it look? How does the parking? These sound like simple things, but if the dealer is looking out for that in the customer, how much more are they going to be able to help you purchase the right car?
Right, that's such a good point. And I think also the support systems involved as well. I don't know about most people, but I know I wanted to see this. I know when I bought my first car from you, you were like, let's go over to Service Bar, I'll show you what we do. And I was amazed at what you do over there. And I take advantage of the service department in a positive way. And I also tell a lot of people about it. I talk about it often. I use that experience in a positive way to share with people how you can take something that has a negative stereotype and really make it right. And your company does, and I'm proud of you and them for that. So so they should be looking, obviously, a lot farther than just the dollars and cents, because when they walk in the door, and if all they're focused on is the dollars and cents, they're not going to get much more than that, right?
Absolutely. I mean, you can buy a car anywhere. There's several Lexus dealerships in the eastern area, but how you are going to be treated from the time you step into the dealership to when you come back for that first service. Again, service, I tell clients, you're going to see me once every 2-3 years. You're going to see service 4 or 5 times a year, and I make it a point to take them over to service. They'll see that the service advisor is sitting behind a normal desk just like we're sitting at right now. You're not sitting behind some big tower. You walk and the floors are white clean, and they take a lot of pride. The technicians, the detailers, the valet parkers. So again, you're not just buying a price. You can get the best price anywhere. You can go around to 100 different dealerships to get a good price. But when you need that dealer to step up and you've got an issue, you've got a flat tire on the side of the road, who's going to be there to help you?
Right. And I think that's very important. So they should be all-encompassing, looking at all the facts. And when you're out there buying a vehicle, go way beyond the price. If you're looking at just the price, you're really going to make a mistake for yourself. What about scams in the industry, Greg? There's still a lot of scams running in the automotive industry?
Well, I mean, we're very regulated by the states as far as taking cash in. That used to be a big thing. People would want to come in. Well, get a better deal if I pay cash. I mean, no. I mean, we've got to report. Something that cash comes in, we got to report it. Scams as far as things you'll see. $99. Get a car for $99. All the fine print's there. The problem is people don't read the fine print.
Right.
They don't see it's with $10,000 down. You're a college grad. You're a military employee, and read the fine print. Because if you read the fine print, it's all there. It may be jungled around, but by law, the printed ad has to be there. Some of the scams that you may want to look for are basically advertising a car that doesn't exist. There's a lot of dealerships will advertise a base price. Well, that is the base price. They're not lying. They're abiding by that. But there's 10 other options that are on there. So you just have to kind of be educated, and when a customer comes in and tells me, I know your cost, I know this, I know that, I said, great, you just made my job a lot easier. Now it's just I got to find you the right car. Right.
And I also always think of the bait and switch where they put, one car, and in the fine print they put a serial number of the car to the VIN number, and of course when you come in, that car's not there. Oh, we sold that already,
Right.
And they probably sold it 3 times already. I'll tell you, that happened to me once at a certain dealership. I never went back there before, again, ever. And I never say anything nice about that dealership because I knew it. Somebody said, watch out for that, and I went in, and as soon as I walked in, it was a dealership up north, I was buying a truck. As soon as I walked in, they go, oh, we sold that, and I know they must have said that 500 times to people who walked in that door, and of course, it was never, you could never get anything close to that price in that car, because like you said, it technically didn't exist. So, there's obviously a lot of scams to walk out. How do people know if a car's good? Real quick.
Well, Consumers Report is a great listing. You'll see there are a nonprofit organization that is telling you basically the reports on what the customer said the car, how the car performed, how the car acted in the first 90 days. Test drive a car. That's the most important thing. People say, no, I don't need to test drive, it's just got to be the price. Well, it's an expensive pair of shoes, one of my managers say. You want to, try it on. So I absolutely say, test drive the car. You'll know if that car is going to be good for you or not.
Right, yeah. I agree with that. You know how I felt about the last car, but it felt like a glove. I mean, I think that's the first thing I told you. It fits like a glove, and it was just amazing when I got in that seat. And it does make a big difference. And, sometimes people joke about that. And I have some friends that will say, I don't care what it is, as long as it gets me to work and back. But me personally, I spend a lot of time in the car. It's got to be the right fit for me. So I'm glad you mentioned that. What about, real quick on this, because we're coming up to a break, American versus foreign. I think there's a lot of misnomer there, and I know you work for Lexus, so technically it's a Japanese car. How does that come into play? I mean, obviously, you want to buy American because that's been sold to us with that concept, but how does that really work in the industry?
Right. Well, again, like I mentioned earlier, there are we're a franchise. We're owned by an American company. We employ American workers. The deliveries are done here in America. So, you know, are the dollars going back to Japan? Yes, the dollars do go back, but also the amount of money that Toyota and Lexus put into this country is just amazing. 90% of Toyotas now are all made in this country. People don't even know that. Lexuses are made in North America as far as our sport utility. Our most popular, 50% of our sales are the sport utility, the RX 350, made in North America. So people don't realize that. So you still are supporting American jobs. We're not doing the manufacturing here as of yet, but I'm sure that will be happening soon.
Great. Well, thank you for that insight, Greg. You're listening to the Good News on Business here at Tandem Radio. And, of course, you can find us also on tandemradio.com. And tandemradio.com is just a powerful resource that can help you in every aspect of your business. We'd love to have you come visit us. And if you have any questions or concerns about your business, let us know at info, I-N-F-O, at tandemradio.com. That's I-N-F-O at tandemradio.com. Or if you're a Facebook fan, go on Facebook. We'd love to have you like us. And go on Facebook and just type in Tandem Radio, and we'll come up. And you might even see my face glaring back at you. But go on there, put a comment or two. We'd love to hear from you. Stay tuned. We got a lot more right after this break. Welcome back to Tandem Radio. This is your host, Glen here with the Good News on Business. And today we're talking about industry stereotypes. And talking about an industry that's most commonly stereotyped, that's the automotive industry, when people go to buy cars. They're often thinking about stereotype kind of people. I remember one of the funniest movies I ever saw was called Used Cars. I don't remember, you must have seen that movie.
Everyone saw it.
Yeah, I can't remember who was the star in there. Kurt Russell, right. I thought that was a funny movie. The industry standards for the car dealerships, and of course I have someone in the studio today who's a good friend of mine, a brother in the Lord, and a great prayer warrior, who is the exception to the rule in the car industry, and thank God I know him, because it makes that part of my life that much less stressful. Both my wife and I both I just say, Greg, get us a car, and that's it. So, but anyway, we're talking about different aspects of the industry. Greg, let's start with things like looking into the quality of the car. We finished that before, but you said consumer reports, that type of thing. What about things like Carfax? How does that work, and is that something that benefit the people out there?
Well, absolutely. I mean, the Carfax really helps with the used car selection, or as we call it, Lexus land, certified pre-owned. Lexus came out with that certified pre-owned back in 93 or 94, where they're going through the car, doing about a 120-point check on the car, and then certifying the car with a 3-year or 100,000-mile warranty on the car. Now, that car that was traded in previously, we're going to make sure that the car hasn't had any major body work or paint work on the car. And one of the ways to check that out is with Carfax. So if the customer or client turned the car in and it was an accident that was reported, there's going to be a Carfax saying it was involved in an accident, it was involved in a collision or an accident. Right now, unfortunately in Carfax, there's no difference if you put a claim in, if somebody keyed your car, it's going to say it's paint work, or it's going to say if it was involved in an accident. So you kind of got to dig a little bit deeper. One of the things I'm suggesting to my clients is when you do have an accident and you report it, take pictures of the car. So if you go to sell it, you could say, look, it was just a bumper. Right. It was just a scratch. So this way you have some ammunition when you go to trade your car in, because the average consumer that's going to buy a used car in a lot and says, well, it's got a bad Carfax. Well, it's just a bumper. Again, they're not going to believe the stereotypical car salesman that it was just a bumper. And I try to explain that, and say, well, it was repaired. The people say, well, if there's 2 cars in the lot, one was painted and one wasn't, which one are you going to pay for?
Right, exactly.
So Carfax is a great tool. Also, the Edmunds guide, edmunds.com, will give you some values of cars. A little closer to what the real values are, although we do use the major auctions. Every couple of weeks the books come out. And again, these are all guides. So just because it's on the internet and it's in black and white doesn't mean it's true. Right. Again, Edmunds or Kelly Blue Book, they're not writing a check for you. Right.
Now, just so to clarify in the Carfax, where do they get that information from?
Well, basically, it's generated off of police reports. Is primarily where it's coming from.
Oh, really? So is that like, is there a law that says that, or Carfax is just going out and doing it?
They're grabbing it from public information.
Those are public records.
Yeah, public records. Yeah.
So whenever a car has an accident, Carfax is like scoffing up that info and putting it on.
They're putting it on their site. Yeah.
Wow. And again, sometimes I'm glad you mentioned the picture thing, because I know it happened to me. You know, you could have a bumper damage, and they say front end. Or I had something where, you know, couple of stones chipped on my front of my hood, and quite honestly, I never even got it fixed. I just covered the little chips with the extra paint you gave me, and it looked great. Nobody would ever know, but on the Carfax it said front end damage.
Right.
You know?
So
ouch.
it becomes a little bit of an issue. So I suggest you take a picture of it, and then even if you're selling it on your own, you could show the prospective person that what happened.
That's a great idea. Let's talk about, you mentioned certified pre-owned. For me, in my opinion, it's a no-brainer. I love, and you know it, buying the certified pre-owned cars. I think they make so much sense. When should people, is there a rule of thumb when people should buy used versus new?
Well, basically, I mean, you know, in your situation, the mileage. So if you could pick up a pre-owned car with low mileage, you're going to be able to extend that warranty out, because the manufacturer warranties generally is 4 years or 50,000 miles on a new Lexus, and the engine transmission goes for 6 years or 70. On a pre-owned car, it's going to take it 3 years from the day you buy it up to 100,000 miles. Now, if the car already has 50 on it, you're only getting 50. If the car has 5 miles on it, 5,000 miles on it, then you're getting 95,000 miles. So if you're doing a lot of mileage, the pre-owned may be a good outlet for you, as opposed to leasing a car where your restrictions are on mileage. Leases generally are low mileage leases are like 8,000 to 10,000 miles at least. The average mileage on a lease is 12 and 15. So at one point you're going to start paying for, you know, a lot more mileage up front on the leasing.
Right.
So generally, if you're doing a lot of highway driving, usually buying is a little bit better. But if you're a business owner, I have clients who build 30,000 miles a year into the leases, and the business is writing it off as a business expense. So, you know, those are things you have to talk to your accountant about.
Yeah, I think that's important to realize, because there are certain tax deduction rules where, you know, when you buy a car, you have to amortize it. When you lease a car, you write the whole thing off, and so forth. And again, we're not accountants, so
exactly.
Check with your accountant there. And, you know, relative to buying a pre-owned car, I know for me, I like the safety and the security or insurance, for lack of a better term, of buying it through you, through Lexus, where it's certified pre-owned. I get this extended mileage. What about the guy who's buying it from the neighbor next door or down the street?
Well, again, you know, you don't know what you're getting. You can bring the car into our dealership. We'll do a safety check for a fee. We'll check the car out, let you know what it is. We can run the history, all the history on the car. So if you're buying a pre-owned car off the street, I suggest, if that client or a person selling you the car is open to it, to either put a plate on it, drive it to the dealership, or have your mechanic come and look at it, which is getting harder and harder to do, to have a mechanic come out and look at a car, because there's just not that many garage mechanics anymore. But to get it to a dealership, have them check it out, they can tell you the history of the car.
I think another thing, too, as a tip you may agree with, is keeping your service records. If you have service bills on the vehicle and you show someone who you're selling it to, from the person who's selling it, I think it goes a long way when they can hand you a file folder that says every time you had an oil change, every time you had brakes changed, and they see that you're legitimately servicing the car. I know we had bought a car used from someone who, it was a blessing. God's hand was on my son, and she gave us a great price. But one of the things I remember is she handed me the service package of what she had done, and I was like, wow, she kept all these records. And it meant a lot to me to see that she maintained the car and serviced the car.
Absolutely. I mean, if you can get the service records from the person who's selling the car, it does make a difference when a car is serviced at a dealership versus serviced at a local garage, because they're using genuine parts, they're using trained technicians, they're looking for things that could potentially be wrong with the car, and they could be covered under warranty. So things could get fixed that you'd even know there was a problem at if you bring it to a dealership. So having that service record is definitely an asset.
And what about, let's talk about from the consumer's perspective when they come into the car dealership. People come in sometimes and they have these lofty ideas of not only what they want to buy, but what they want to spend, and so forth and so on. Do you see a lot of people coming in looking for one thing, but they end up leaving with something different?
Yeah, you'll see they'll have to say they wanted, well, we want to get a four-door sedan, and they'll be walking around the showroom, and then they'll see that red convertible sitting on the showroom floor. And it's just funny, the other day there was a client, and they were an older couple in their 80s, and they came in looking for a sedan. They saw the silver and black convertible on the showroom floor. It wasn't my client. And next thing I know, they're writing up the paperwork. And I guess he felt, if I don't do it now, you can't take it with you.
It's funny, and I bet you that has a lot to do with husbands and wives shopping too, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if sometimes you'll make a deal with a husband, and then the wife will come and say, "Are you kidding me? I'm not getting in that thing," or "Why did you pick that color?" They'll leave it up to the color. But although you have the wife that'll come in and say that she she definitely needs a sport utility, and the husband will take it over the car. So there's all kinds of different scenarios. But again, getting back to the test drive, that's the most important thing. And this older couple, like I said, they test drove the sedan and they test drove the convertible. They said, "Wow, he fits in it. He was 6'2". He felt comfortable in it." And they had a big smile on their face. So nothing better than seeing a happy customer.
Yeah, and on the husband and wife thing, I just want to tell people, if you want to stay married, you shouldn't shop with your spouse very often. No, I'm just kidding. But seriously, it's funny because I want to tell a quick story about it. I think I probably told you the story. First time I took Cindy, my wife, to buy a minivan. We had just had kids, and it was the minivan phase of our life, right? And we went into this dealership, and it wasn't yours. It was up north something. And I'll never forget, I was beating the guy down on price, right, because Stereotypes, right? And I'm sitting at his desk, and my wife is sitting to my left, but I couldn't see her. She was sitting a little back. And we got to a certain price, and I knew I could get this guy down another $10 a month, And I got him down real good, and he stopped negotiating. He's just staring at me. And I said, "Hey, look, I need this extra money off." And he goes, "No." And I was like, "What do you mean?" He said, "No, you're ready to buy the car." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And he looks at my wife, and I look at my wife, and she's sitting there crying.
Thought she was going to lose
right,
the car.
she thought she was going to lose the car, and I was like, "Okay, I guess we're signed." I walked out. I said, "What were you doing?" She was like, "I thought you weren't going to buy me the car." I'll never forget that. So I should have left her at home that time. But send your wife. Do like I do. Send your wife out to pick the car, then you go and close the deal. But then again, if I got somebody like Greg, or I find a long-term relationship with somebody like Greg who has integrity, I can just send my wife down, and whatever he sends her home with, I know I'll be happy with, for the most part. No, seriously. Well, thank you, Greg. We got so much more to cover in the next segment. I can't believe we're already through a segment. We're talking to Greg Webb, who's a top performer at Ray Catena Lexus, and we're talking about industry stereotypes, specifically in the automotive industry. But other industries are also stereotypes, not just automotive. But we thought that would be a good one to start with, especially since our relationship with Greg. You're listening to Tandem Radio, and again, we hope that you'll check us out on Facebook at Tandem Radio. Just go on Facebook, type in Tandem Radio. When we come up, click that like button and find out more about us and what we do. You can even see the show. We actually archive our shows on video on our website at tandemradio.com. Great place to go. And if you're interested in getting the word out about your business, sponsorships, we're open for business here. You can reach out and talk to contact Cooper Ford, who is our marketing manager here, and he'll be glad to chat with you about sponsorships and how you can find out more about being involved in Tandem Radio. The good news. We'll be back right after these messages. Well, welcome back to Tandem Radio Live. This is your host, Glen, and today we're talking about industry stereotypes, specifically the automotive industry. And let me just hit our scriptures one more time. 1 Chronicles 29:17. "I know, my God, that you test the heart and are pleased with integrity. All these things I have given willingly and with honest intent." Psalm 25:21. "May integrity and uprightness protect me, because my hope, Lord, is in you." Now, I think that's such an important psalm, that integrity and uprightness really do protect us, and I know Greg can attest to that as well. Galatians 6:7. "Do not be deceived. God cannot be mocked. A man reaps what he sows." And isn't that the truth? If you're out there doing things that just are unscrupulous and unprofessional, boy, are you going to get it in the end. There's
right.
No doubt about it. I've seen it happen all too many times. With that in mind, Greg, and in light of the current scriptures, I know one of the main reasons I had you on today is because I know how you profess faith in Christ, and I know how it impacts your life and your career as well. So I wanted to first start with that. How do you see that your faith in Christ has impacted your career?
Well, I mean, you said you reap what you sow, and it's so true, because the clients that you are sowing the seeds to today are the clients that are going to come back to you in the future. And I based my career there on doing the right thing, giving a fair price, giving good service, and working on referrals and repeat customers because of how I treated them. When they first walk in, that stereotype, it's breaking that down. And when they see, I'm not just there to make a sale, but to make a relationship. And then they can send their friends and they can send their daughters. And I mean, I have clients now whose kids are getting their license. It's crazy that they're coming in, and we talk about putting their car seats in the back of the seats, and now they're in the driver's seat.
Right.
But my faith also has, clients have seen, they see something that's different, and those who are in Christ are going to recognize that, and we're going to speak openly about that. Those who are not, they're going to, still see that there's something there, and there's a trust level. So the seeds that you plant are going to come back, and now after 20 years at one dealership, to the point where most of my business, I would say 90% of it is on repeat referrals. I still take fresh customers as they walk in. If someone needs help, I still help out, with a fellow salesman. And, it's not always about just making the sale, Right. It's about giving that person a good experience, because they can walk out of the dealership and say, you know what, I can't afford a Lexus, but you know what, boy, that guy was different,
Right.
And that's, where my ministry, is with my clients, to change that that perception of car salespeople.
Yeah, you mentioned 20 years, Greg. Is that common for somebody to be at a single dealership for 20 years?
Not really, no. They usually bounce around from dealership to dealership. We're blessed with our owner, Ray Catena, who has salespeople who've been in some of his dealerships over 35, probably employees have been with him for 45 years.
Wow.
And that's not common. But even my management staff, I mean, there's managers that have been there 23 years. So, again, it's not something that's common, but when you're working with a good manufacturer, a great dealership, and an integrity level that starts from the top down, our dealership stands above most of them.
And I can see that absolutely in my personal experience as well. You're in sales, obviously, and even sales in general has a stigma, right? People come in, I go out and sell something very different than what you do, but yet people look at me as a salesperson,
Right.
And I've even had clients say to me, "I'm not just talking to some salesperson, am I?" And I'm like, "No, okay, in this case." But I know how people have to struggle with that, right? So, has walking integrity paid off for you? I mean, obviously the scripture talks about uprightness and integrity. Has that really paid off for you? Were there actually times where, you said to yourself, this is a profitable deal, but it's not the right deal, and you took that integral path, and then, it really, in the long term, really worked out for you?
Absolutely. We call it walking away from a deal. I mean, a client will come in and, there's the term, they just laid down for that car. They fell in love with it, and, they couldn't afford it, but they... you knew it was going to be a strain on them, and to kind of, take them to the next car and say, you know what, let me show you this one here, and knowing that the big payday on the convertible, whatever it was on that car, because they only make 4 or 5 of them and don't really have a lot of room to discount, something like that, take them to a car that has a lot of volume, and, get them into something that they can afford. They come back and they remember that, and they said, I'll be back for that car one day.
This is off that topic, but it's dear to my heart. Colors. Let's talk about colors for a second real quick. I know it's out of nowhere. But are there certain colors that are obviously more popular than others?
Well, I mean, every manufacturer, has, certain core colors they're going to make. There's the whites and the blacks. There's the silver. And then there's the hard-to-get reds. Well, I mean, every manufacturer makes a red, and But one of the things is, don't you get more speeding tickets in red? And it's a misnomer. I mean, that's not
Some
true.
people just even think you get higher insurance with red, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard that before. That's a misnomer.
And what it is, I mean, basically, there's red. There's a lot of produced cars that are red that are sports cars. So people who drive sports cars drive faster. People who young drivers get red cars when they first get the new license. So I mean, the color of the car really doesn't impact the price of the car. It's more about the availability of the car at that time.
So why do they make more colors than others? Just basically public opinion?
Well, I mean, basically, they're going to produce the mainstream colors. They're going to produce colors that are easy. I mean, there's some people who just hate red cars. I mean,
Right.
there's some people like yourself that love red cars, but it's basically a manufacturing thing. They don't produce less red cars to try to make more money or less blue cars.
Right.
I mean, yellow cars, there's a thing about yellow cars. Yellow cars fade. I mean, if you look at any 5, 6, 7-year-old yellow car, it's pretty much a faded color.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to think that also about silver. People used to tell me something about there's less pigment in silver. Does silver fade faster?
Years ago, there was some issues with silver paints, but the paints have come so far now, you really don't have that issue.
One of the things I notice about the higher end cars like Lexus, and I think I'd have to say the same as Jaguar, Mercedes, some of these others, the paint jobs, there's a big difference, isn't there? Because, when I buy a 2-year-old certified, pre-certified, it looks brand new. If I was to buy a 2-year-old some other car, I won't name names,
Right.
they look 2 years old.
Yeah. I mean, there's a reason, like you said before, you get what you pay for. I mean, there's a reason why a Lexus is priced more than a Toyota.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same manufacturer, but there's 5,000 more welds in the car. There's a 8-step paint process versus a 4-step paint process. So, there's costs that go into these high-end cars. There's a reason why the paint will look good. You can take a 20-year-old Mercedes and turn that paint back into new if it's even been oxidized sitting out there. Now, again, older paint also was different, too, because now paint's getting changed, so it doesn't, create problems in the ozone.
Right. So there's so many things going on, I know, with technology in general. Just real quick, do you see cars drive themselves soon or what?
Well, I mean, right now they're advertising, cars that will stop as they're backing up. I mean, we are moving close to that. There's a fine line, though. I mean, at what point does the computer, take over what the driver is doing? These pre-collision systems, not only is it going to mean that you're going to stop, you're still going to have a collision, but before the collision, they're going to set the seat up, the airbag, and set up the systems in the car so you get the least amount of impact to your body and more into the car. Are they going to drive themselves? 20 years from now, I'm probably, Lord willing, we're still here. We'll find out.
Yeah, I know they're almost parking themselves and all that other stuff. So it's kind of crazy what's going on there, and hover cars and all kinds of things. Well, Greg, believe it or not, we're out of time, and we're going to have to do this again sometime and talk about technologies of the automotive. I didn't test your knowledge in that area today because I really wanted to talk about your faith and your walk with Christ, and I'm so excited you came in and shared with us today.
Well, thanks, Glenn, for having me on, and anybody has any questions about the Lexus or any cars, you can give me a call anytime at Ray Catena Lexus.
Great, and you can find a link to Ray Catena Lexus and to Greg at tandemradio.com. Just go there, and you'll be able to connect directly to Greg, and he'll answer any of your questions and help you. And I don't care if you have a question about any car, feel free to give Greg a call because he's been a resource to me in many areas, so feel free to give him a shout. You listen to Tandem Radio. We'll see you next week, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here at the Bridge FM Network or at tandemradio.com. So stay tuned for more in the weeks ahead. We got a lot to cover with you.
You've been listening to The Good News on Business, a Tandem Radio live broadcast heard here on the Bridge FM Radio Network and streaming at tandemradio.com. Don't forget to join us every Saturday at 11 a.m. to 12 noon Eastern Standard Time, and call us and email us with your questions because we'd love to hear from you. You can also visit our website for the latest blogs from Peter and Glen, along with other information about upcoming guests, events, and business opportunities. I'm Kevin Reeves, and from everyone at Tandem Radio, we hope that you have a blessed week, and remember, walk with the Lord every day, in every way.